Big old 10mm revolver test. So I have a bunch of variety of 10mm automatic ammunition that I've had for some time, and I was basically saving a lot of it until I got a more reliable 10mm platform to test ammo from. And I finally got my reliable 10mm platform to test ammo from. Smith & Wesson 610 with a 4-inch barrel, 10mm revolver. So the ammo I'm going to test today is a variety of different weights and power levels, but most of it is more in the defensive power level. So it's not like bear ammo where we're going to hit like 700 foot-pounds or anything like that. Most of your hollow points are a little bit lower powered, so most of these are like that. But what we have is our Hornady Handgun Hunter. That's a 135 grain. Our Corbin DPX solid copper bullet. That is a 155 grain. We got our Buffalo Bore Tactical low recoil, low flash 10mm, 155 grain XTP. We have our Underwood. This is a full powered 155 grain XTP. We have our PMC, which is a 170 grain jacket at hollow point. I have an older box of 175 grain silver tip. Then I have our Hornady Custom 180 grain XTP. And then we have our Speared Gold Dot 200 grain gold dot hollow point. So a good variety of ammo to test here. So I'm going to go through the chronograph with these and see what kind of velocity averages we get with these. I'm only going to fire a couple rounds, so we'll see what we get. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to shoot a couple different blocks here, but because I have so many different varieties to run, I have 8 different ammo varieties there. I'm going to do our real world simulation with every one of these shots. So what I mean by that is I have 4 layers of denim on this first 3-inch piece that represents our pectoral muscle. After that, a 1/4-inch medium density fiber board to represent hitting ribs or sternum. So we're going to do 4 different ammos in this block. We'll put up another block and do 4 more and just see how they all compare. Very basic, simple test today. And then if I have some rounds left over, I'm going to shoot at the steel, see what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. All right, so I'm going to try to get one shot over the chronograph of each of these because I don't have a lot of these rounds. So you'll see some numbers on the chronograph. That's just from my 22 pistol I brought out to make sure the chronograph was working properly. So I have all the rated velocities written down. I'll tell them to you here as I go along, but I'm just going to try to get one shot over this chronograph to see what we can get, and then I'll list all the numbers all together of what we got. So first up, we have our Hornady Handgun Hunter 135 grain. It's rated at 1315 feet per second. Let's see if I can get a read with this. 1321, actually above the rate of velocity. It's not very powerful, but yeah, above. Next we have our Corbin DPX 155 grain solid copper hollow point. We're rated at 1200 feet per second. Let's see what we get with this. Well, that's an old box of ammo, so probably a hard primer here. I think it's been long enough it's not going to fire. Yeah, we have a light primer strike. I'll go one more time on this DPX. All right, we got got the fire 1123 feet per second. So below rated velocity by a good amount. Next up we have our Buffalo Bore low recoil 155 grain XTP. We're rated at 1350 feet per second. Let's see if we get that. Alright, I got another Buffalo Bore low recoil. Let's see if I can get a read here. Wow, old box of ammo. Let me wait here a minute. Alright, we had a hard primer on that one again. So these are all 2020 boxes of ammo, and that's probably why. So Buffalo Bore low recoil, let me try one more. Weird. Let me make sure my chronograph is working. The 22 pistol out here. That's working. So let me grab a couple more rounds of that Buffalo Bore. I might have to back it up because it's probably just too stout and it's throwing some smoke over that chronograph and obscuring its vision. So let me try a couple more of those Buffalo Bores. All right, so I'm going to be off camera here because I need to back up probably. So Let's see if this helps at all. Buffalo bore, low recoil. 1320 feet per second. So yeah, that was the issue going on there. Now we have our Underwood XTP 155 grain rated at 1500 feet per second. Actually, I'm going to back up for this one as well. This should be a full powered load. So this one's rated 150 feet per second. More than that, Buffalo bore. Let's see if I get a read here. 1425 feet per second. So yeah, that's some pretty good velocity there. Next up we have our PMC 170 grain. That one is rated at 1200 feet per second. Let's see if I can get a read with this. So that 40 Smith & Wesson, I mean 10 millimeter, not very powerful. And last in this cylinder here, we have our Silvertip 175 grain rated at 1200 feet per second. See if I can get a read here. Ah, 1131, not great. All right, so I have a couple more rounds here to read. We got our Hornady Custom 180 grain, and then we have our Spear Gold Dot. So our Hornady Custom 180 grain is rated at 1180 feet per second. Let's see if we can get that. Wow, 1214, pleasantly surprised with that Hornady Custom. Now we have our Gold Dot 200 grain rated at 1100 feet per second. So let's see if we can get that 1100 with this 200 grain bullet. Well, a little bit below rated velocity, but that is kind of a personal defense round. It's not really meant for bears or anything. So at least we got velocity reads with all of these to get a good idea, you know, of what we're going to get. It's not a good average, but it'll tell you pretty much. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fire 4 rounds into this first block here. I'm going to start with the lighter ammo because statistically that's going to penetrate a little bit less. I don't want to start with the 200 grain and go into my second block. I want to start with the lighter bullets so that we don't have too much over penetration. See how those do, and then we'll switch it up and move on to our heavier bullets. So let's get started with hitting our ballistics gel block with these. All right, I'm going to do 2 shots at a time and then go up and compare those two and analyze what we got with 2 shots. So I'm going to start with the lighter bullets. So first up we have our 2 solid copper hollow points, our Hornady Handgun Hunter first, and then our Corbon DPX second. So here's our Hornady Handgun Hunter 135 grain through our real world simulation. All right, I have to set that back up and then we'll hit it with the Corbon DPX. All right, Corbon DPX 155 grain. Let's see how this compares. Go take a look. All right, so this is very interesting. I did get bullet expansion through here with our Hornady round, and then our Corbon really big expansion too, but it busted out all apart hitting that like that. So pretty good energy dump overall. First 3 inches, there's some good energy dump with both. They both look about the same. Our Hornady Handgun Hunter, it arced down and it hit the bottom of the shelf here, but what we got going on here is full expansion with that Hornady round. It actually looks a little bigger than the Corbon, and what we got is about 14 inches of penetration. With our Corbon with that 155 grain, we want just a little more, about 14 3/4 inches of penetration. Both of them look like they did about the same thing overall though, except from this angle it looks like the Hornady one probably expanded more, but both pretty similar. So let's hit this with a couple more rounds. All right, the next 2 are both 155 grain XTP bullets. Buffalo bore and Underwood. So our Buffalo bore was the lower powered one, and then our Underwood was that full powered one. So let's see what we get with our Buffalo bore lower recoil version. Wow, lower recoil. Let me set that back up and hit it with the Underwood. What a mess with that, but this is going to be worse. So here's our Underwood version. We almost lost all those blocks. Let's go up and take a look. All right, so interesting here. We did clip one of those copper bullets, and the reason why is because that copper bullet up on top, even though I hit it this side of the block, it curved in to the right significantly into the channel here. But that being said, you know, we've dispersed most of our energy up here, so we're not really, that's not really going to change anything. The only thing it could change is it might push out the pedal on that copper bullet, but it's really not going to change anything. So what we can see here is pretty typical. When you take the same bullet and you push it faster, it actually penetrates less because it flattens out more. There's more surface area and it dumps more energy right away. So we definitely have more energy dump, more damage with our Underwood version with that same bullet. What we got with the Underwood, or I mean the Buffalo Bore I should say, 18.5 inches, really good expansion. Our Underwood version, we have a little more expansion, it looks like, in about 16.5 inches of penetration. So overall, you know, both of those did pretty well. It's really hard to say which one did better. I would say obviously our Underwood did better, but you know, our Buffalo Bore is going to give you that little more penetration. So basically what I'm trying to say is if I had to use this for like black bear defense or something like that, I'd probably pick the lower powered Buffalo Bore version, because it's going to penetrate a little bit more. But that Underwood version, wow, that's going to put some stopping power on a lot of things though. So all of these did pretty well. Out of all these though, obviously I think our Underwood did the best out of all these. So let's put up a new block and move on. All right, next up we have our 40 Smith & Wesson, I mean 10 millimeter PMC. 170 grain at like 1,000 feet per second. Shame on them calling that a 10 millimeter. You know, some of these are pretty light, but that's a little too light. So here's our 170 grain PMC. I don't even have to set that back up. Next up we have our 175 grain silver tip. We'll take a look. All right, so we are getting into that stage where we are going to get a lot of penetration here. I did place these kind of close, but no channels actually touched each other. But what we got going on here, I kind of expected that. PMC, no expansion, no energy dump. Our silver tip did okay, moderate expansion. So with our PMC, we just got a straight line penetration, and this is something, these two words don't belong together, these two phrases. 10 millimeter, no expansion. So with that PMC 10 millimeter, we got about 24.75 inches of penetration. With our silver tip, we actually, it looks to me like that's pretty good expansion, if not full expansion. And even though we expanded real good, we definitely did because we saw it through the MDF and everything. We still got a lot of penetration of about 26.25 inches of penetration. So honestly, even though that's just a silver tip, that might be my choice for like a medium game or, you know, smaller bear defense, stuff like that. That did pretty good for a lot of penetration. So interesting. Let's fire the last 2 rounds into here, see how those do. All right, Hornady Custom 180 grain. Hornady Custom seems to be pretty good overall, you know, just does pretty well. 180 grain XTP though. Let's see what this does. All right, let me set that back up. We'll hit it with the gold dot. All right, Spear Gold Dot 200 grain. Let's see what this does. We'll take a look. All right, so that's some very interesting results, and very much proof that bullet design matters. Because we had more energy dump with bullets that were heavier than this 175 grain silver tip. And I'm not even going to count that PMC as anything to really talk about. That's not right. First 3 inches here, we had energy dump with both. Pretty good energy dump with both. And when we actually look at our MDF here, here's our Hornady Custom, here's our gold dot. So our gold dot expanded massively, which is interesting, and it has less penetration even though it was slower and a heavier bullet. So that's very interesting overall. So what I'm seeing here is about 19 inches of penetration with our 180 grain Hornady Custom, and our Spear Gold Dot got about 17 inches of penetration. So we can definitely see though our energy dump with the Hornady Custom 180 grain is better than most of these, and with our Spear Gold Dot is pretty good too. So judging from these 8 different rounds that I have tested, there's a lot of different things going on. When we're talking solid copper hollow points, that can be a good choice, but honestly in 10 millimeter, they're not super, they don't look that good really, honestly here. Our XTPs though, I would say in all of this test, the 3 XTPs I tested were really good. So we had our 155 grain and the Buffalo Bore low recoil and the Underwood. That did really good. Both of them did really good. You can't really say which one did better there. And then when we go to our 180 grain, that did good as well. So judging by everything I'm seeing here, I honestly think our 180 grain XTP is the most balanced load here with our Hornady Custom. It really is. The most surprising round here is the Gold Dot, that we had actually less recoil with that, but it did really, really well, and we still had a good energy dump. So I'm going to say here, both the copper rounds did fine. Our Underwood and Buffalo Bore in both 155 and 180 grain did better than the rest. Our PMC and silver tip didn't do very well, and our Gold Dot did pretty well. So honestly, again, I'm going to repeat this again. I think that XTP 155 or 180 grain, probably the best loads here. And our Hornady Custom, I would say, across the board, did pretty well. So let's pull these all out of the block. We'll take a close-up look at them. Then I'm going to shoot our steel to see what kind of accuracy I can get with these rounds. All right, so here's a close-up look at all these bullets here. Here's our Hornady Handgun Hunter. Really good expansion overall. Very hard pedals. Corbon DPX. Expansion was a little bit inconsistent, but overall we still had good expansion overall. Here is our Buffalo Bore low recoil 155 grain XTP. Did pretty well. Now just going up to a little bit more velocity, our Underwood 155 grain. Same bullet as this Buffalo Bore, but it got really bigger expansion from that little extra velocity. Here's our PMC. That is quite pathetic. Next up we have our silver tip. We have a little bit of weird, inconsistent expansion with one pedal, but it is an older box, so can't really expect a whole lot out of that. Next up we have our Hornady Custom 180 grain. I honestly think this did the most consistently overall. Didn't really over penetrate. Did pretty well for what it is. Low recoil, very accurate. Now we have our Gold Dot hollow point here. Really big expansion, to be honest. Pretty good overall. Bullet is real long, good amount of sectional density there, but it still did not over penetrate. So yeah, this did pretty well. Very low recoil. So overall, that's a close-up look at all those bullets. All of them did relatively well, except that PMC is garbage. And our older box of silver tips, not great because we got over penetration. So that's a close-up look at those bullets. All right, so what I want to do now is just a basic double tap test, see if there's a difference in my ability to place 2 shots on target quickly. I don't have a lot of these rounds of each of them, so I just want to fire 2, see how the control is for me with these. So first up we have our Hornady Handgun Hunter 135 grain, 12 yards. All right, next up we have our Corbon DPX. That's from a round of ammo from 2020. Hard primer again. Next up we have our Buffalo Bore low recoil, 155 grain. That's got more recoil than the other two. I don't have two of the Underwoods left of that full power, but I got some more rounds here. So let's see how these double tap. I'm not going to do the PMC because that was absolute garbage. I'm going to do 2 silver tip, 2 Hornady Custom 180 grains, and then 2 of the gold dots. So first up we have our silver tips here. See how these two do. And something with that moon clip was a little off. Silver tip did pretty good. Next up we have our Hornady Custom 180 grain. Next up we have our gold dot 200 grain. So I would say the recoil between all of these, I would say the gold dot felt the most predictable. You know, we have more of a push rather than a snap type of a recoil. A Hornady Custom also was pretty good, but you could feel a little bit of power going on there with the Hornady Custom. You know, it was a full powered 180 grain, what they considered a full powered. So I would say overall the shootability out of all of these, you know, the Handgun Hunter obviously is going to recoil. You know, it's easy to control that, but that's a very weak round. Everything else felt like it had a good amount of recoil, but I would say just the best feeling recoil here, most predictable recoil of how it recoils and comes back down target was going to be the gold dot. It just felt like it was really easy to predict where that's going to hit. But our Hornady Custom, both the low recoil and the full power version were pretty predictable as well. So let me back it up with some of these and see how they continue to shoot for me. All right, I came back from 75 yards. I normally like to do this anyway, but for no reason. But with 10 millimeter, it actually is a reason. A lot of people will hunt with 10 millimeter. So I think it's a good idea just to kind of see how these things will land on target from the 75 yards or 225 feet, just to see what we got going on. So what I got here is I'm going to do 2 cylinders full. I'm going to do a couple of the Hornady Handgun Hunters and then the rest of the cylinder with some DPX. And then I'm going to shoot some Hornady Custom 180 grain and then the gold dot 200 grain. So Hornady Handgun Hunter. So this should be accurate. 135 grain seems like kind of a weird weight for this caliber, but 135 grain. I'm going to go single action as if I'm hunting and trying to take some game. So here we are, Hornady Handgun Hunter, 75 yards. Well, it got away from me. I believe those are dropping below the target, to be honest. All right, now we have our Corbon DPX, 155 grain. See if I'm making hits with these. I don't know where that's going. All right, it's hard for me to even really tell where those are going, but it just kind of feels a little bit weird. Like you just get this feeling like it's not going to hit the right point of impact, because those bullet weights are really just a lot different than typical. It looks like I put a couple of these Hornady 155 grains in my pocket. Let me see how these XTP 155 grains do. Wow. All right, aim and center mass, and both of those actually went to the right for me. Could just be me, but I mean, they both did the same thing. All right, now we have our Hornady Custom 180 grain See if I can make any hits with these. And clip issue here. So obviously that last shot was just me, but I was expecting to see that they would be more reliable for making impacts. So I got a couple gold dots here. See how these do. A little bit left. All right, so that first shot was just me, but overall what I can say here is accuracy wise, you know, up close, on steel at 12 yards, 75 yards. Again, that 180 grain Hornady Custom, I would say, is the best round here for this revolver. I wasn't expecting to get those results, but that's the results we got. You know, I wish I had more of those Underwood rounds to test. I only had 3 rounds when I came out here. So, you know, I can't really learn a lot about that, but I can say the recoil felt pretty harsh. Now, that would definitely be something you'd want to have, though, if you're facing something that was more of a dangerous animal. You want more power. You know, more power, dumping more energy is also going to do pretty well for personal defense. But based on all these rounds here that I've tested across the board for shootability, and this is the important part here, shootability. A lot of people do ballistic tests and they'll only look at the terminal ballistics and look at nothing else and tell you what's the better round. I like to take everything. Shootability, and I like to look at it through the lens of an average person. You know, I could grip these tighter, I could be better, I could try harder, but I'm just kind of going in the middle here with my abilities and just kind of letting them go. That's what I like to do when I do these tests, to kind of see for you guys and for average people, whatever, how they're going to do. And between the shootability and the terminal ballistics, our Hornady Custom 180 grain is the absolute best round here, in my opinion. Here, it did a little bit of everything really well. We had good expansion, we had deep penetration, but not significant over penetration. Shootability, accuracy, great. The next best one here, I would say, is our gold dot. I think that gold dot would make an excellent home defense cartridge, because it just had that real predictable recoil. Like, if you weren't thinking about it, it's basically like shooting a 45 ACP, just boom, come down, boom, come down, boom. You can really time that quite easily. So that gold dot also did pretty well. So none of these are really what you consider hunting rounds. And this is one of the things about 10 millimeter that really irks me. A lot of people will get on my videos, man, that's weak for 10 millimeter, that's weak for 10 millimeter, that's weak for 10 millimeter, but yet almost every 10 millimeter is between 500 and 600 foot-pounds energy out of a typical handgun barrel length. That is what 10 millimeter is, and people are taking an idea that it's supposed to be something greater than what it is and saying that, well, no, it's supposed to be this great thing, but every company underloads it. And it's kind of like, well, if every company's loading it that way, that's what 10 millimeter currently is. And the other thing that irks me about it is there's plenty of power. You know, even these lower loaded 10 millimeters are as powerful as 357 Magnum oftentimes. So they all did pretty well, except the PMC and the silver tip over penetrated. But again, what I think is better here is our XTP loads, particularly the 180 grain, and then the gold dots. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.